The worst thing for me was accepting that, or trying to accept that I can't have children, because I had just talked about it with my two best friends, what we were going to name our children and how many we wanted. And so that was so hard for me to accept, to know that I couldn't bear a child. Hi, my name is Brittany, and I am from Los Angeles, California. I was diagnosed in 2010 with stage 3.75 of ovarian cancer. It gave me a different perspective on life, like how I live daily, and it was very traumatic, I would say. I got married in 2021, and my husband had 2 kids from his prior relationship, so lucky for me, I was able to have 2 bonus babies, and I came into their lives at a very, very young age. When I was about 13 years old, I started experiencing stomach pain. I could not lay down flat. My stomach would hurt. It felt like it was ripping. And of course, I told my mom and my parents and my dad too. And we would make appointments to the doctors, and we would go in, and they would ask me what's wrong, and I would say I would have really bad stomach pain. They would give me blood work, and they would come back and tell me that it was ulcers. And I had stomach pain for 10 years. The doctors dismissed it for 10 years. And so about 13 years old, I think I was in junior high. And all through junior high, I was missing school because I was always in pain. And then once I got to high school, I kind of ignored my pain just because the doctors dismissed it, I guess. So I was just like, okay, well, I look like the boy who cried wolf. So I stopped complaining about it. And then once I started my menstrual cycle, it was extremely heavy. There would be days when I would be in high school and I would have to leave school because the blood would be down to my knees. I would have to ask my friends to walk behind me to the office. And then doctors put me on birth control to try and regulate it, which it did a little bit. But I mean, there were times, and I kid you not, I would just go into the shower, into the bathtub, and just sit there crying because of all the blood. And that's what they tell you, like it stops in the water or whatever. Sorry, I know it's a lot of information, but this is everything that had led up to my diagnosis. And so after the menstrual cycle and the birth control, it was kind of regulated, not so much. I still had the stomach pain. And then once I got to college, I was playing softball, and my heart would be hurting all the time. And I don't know if that's linked to the cancer, but after college, I was still having pain, and I went for my yearly pap smear to my gynecologist. And my regular gynecologist wasn't there that day. It was the nurse practitioner, the assistant. And it was that gynecologist, when she was performing the pap smear, did she tell me that my uterus was too high. And so after the appointment, I left and I Googled it. And of course, I freaked myself out. I had called my mom and told her, like, the gynecologist said my uterus was too high, like, what do we do? And she's like, well, what did the doctor tell you? And they said they were going to schedule a vaginal ultrasound for me, but it wouldn't be for a month or 2. So that night, we decided to go to the emergency room and tell them that my heart was hurting and my stomach was hurting still. So we went into the emergency room. They did the vaginal ultrasound, and then the doctor came back in the room with the results, and he said that I have 2 ovarian cysts, 1 on each ovary, and that they needed to do emergency surgery, but they needed an oncologist there to perform the surgery, but they had reassured me that it wasn't cancer because I was so young. So that all led up to it, and it wasn't until they had cut me open on May 21st, 2010, when I had my surgery, that the surgeon cut me open and realized that I had ovarian cancer, and it had spread to other organs in my reproductive system. So my scar goes vertical. They were supposed to cut me open horizontally, but I guess they realized that I had cancer, so I guess going vertically, they can see more down there. So once I got out of surgery and we were being wheeled back into the room, I was trying to ask the doctors like what had happened, and I had noticed at the time it was over 4 hours from my surgery. So I kept trying to talk to the doctors, but I had that gas or the mask on, so I couldn't really talk. And then once we got into the room, I mean, it was obvious that it was bad. It was the worst case scenario because you could just feel the the sadness and the depression from my mom, my dad, my aunt, my uncle, my cousin. They were all there when we were walking back to the room. And then once we got into the room, that's when my oncologist had said that I had stage 3.75 of ovarian cancer, that it had spread to both ovaries, the fallopian tubes, the lymph nodes, the uterus, the colon, the bladder, and I believe that's it. They said that they had scraped as much as they could in my colon, but they didn't guarantee that they had got it all. I can remember like the doctor telling me like, "Oh, we are going to have to start chemo," and I literally was just in a state of shock. Like I was sitting there numb and I could hear him talking. Like I could see his mouth moving, but nothing was really processing in my head. I was just like, cancer, like how did the doctors miss this for all these years? Like how, and the severity of it, it was stage 3.75, and ovarian cancer at this time only had 4 stages, so fourth was pretty much fatal. And I was like, at the end of stage 3.75, so it was just unreal to me. Like I was just a 23-year-old playing softball with my friends, hanging out, to now fighting cancer. Like it's something I didn't want to accept, pretty much. I had 7 rounds of chemo. It was every 3 weeks. And I can remember going to my chemos every time. I would be in high socks. I would be in a shirt that represented my cousin Julie because she had passed away. I would bring my coloring books. And every time I would get to chemo, my chemo nurse knew to numb my port and to give me ice because I'm such a baby with needles. And they would hook me up, to the medication for chemo, and I would start coloring, or I would write poetry, and pretty much barely 30 minutes in, I was sleeping, and I slept for the whole chemos. I would wake up, and we would always go eat some food. My parents would go, and I really was blessed as far as nauseousness from chemo. I never got nauseous. I ate a ton from the medication. I know there's a lot of people that are opposite, but for some reason I ate everything. And I was one cancer patient who thought, like, there's no way I'm going to lose my hair. And that's what my oncologist told me. He's like, you're going to lose your hair, so don't think that you're going to keep it. And sure enough, within the first session of chemo, I think maybe a few days after that, I was in the shower and my hair just started falling out in chunks. It was like the episode of Breaking Bad, like when he's in the shower and he looks down and the hair, like that's literally how it was for me. You just look down and the hair is just falling out in chunks. And people told me like, oh, you should just shave your head. And I didn't want to. I don't know, I was still in denial, I guess, even though I was losing my hair. And then my eyebrows fell off and my eyelashes. And so I finished chemo actually October 22nd of 2010, which was 2 days after the date I was supposed to end because I had a mental breakdown at one of my chemos. We were running a little late and we had got to the hospital and all the private rooms were taken. So they told me that I can still have my chemo, but I'm going to sit in a room with other cancer patients in chairs, like next to each other. So they walked me into the room and I just looked around and I'm like, I can't do this. I'm a cancer patient. Like I'm one of those that you see on TV, and I'm sitting here with other people and I couldn't do it. So I ran out of the hospital room and my dad went after me, and we called the hospital after to reschedule. So my last chemo ended up being October 22nd of 2010. After my last chemo, they had just notified me that they're going to keep my port in just for precaution. and that after 5 years, I will go into remission. So October 22nd of 2015 is when I went into remission. And we threw a huge party. That was actually on October 24th of 2015. We threw a big party at a restaurant, and it was so much fun. Going through cancer, it seemed surreal to me. Like it wasn't really happening, but it was happening. And the worst thing for me was accepting that, or trying to accept that I can't have children, because I had just talked about it with my two best friends, what we were going to name our children and how many we wanted. And so that was so hard for me to accept, to know that I couldn't bear a child. Coming out of this storm, obviously I wasn't the person I was when I came into the storm. And looking back, I mean, I lost a lot of like experiences and memories with friends, because I was always going out with my friends and hanging out. It was always a group of us. And I feel like once I got cancer, it was just, I had to, watch my health and be careful of what I was doing. So I couldn't go out with him. I couldn't go to dinner with him. I couldn't just get up and go like I used to do. And I feel like that kind of took a mental toll on me too, was not being able to go out with my friends like I did before cancer. I'm not big on saying that, I guess, because I'm a little skeptical. Um, I I feel like I was comfortable saying like I'm cancer free, but as time went on, it was just like, ooh, I don't want to jinx anything. It gives me anxiety thinking about it, but I feel like you can have survivorship, but there's always going to be a piece of you that has that anxiety, that fear that it's going to be a recurrence. But survivorship to me just means being free, like living life every day, carpe diem, seize the moment, and to just do whatever you want to do. Don't hold back. Like, and you have that freedom. You've been to hell and back already. Like, you go do whatever the hell you want to do. Like, you go buy that dress, you go on that vacation, you just live your life, like, and try not to worry about, what has happened. But I feel like that's my mentality, and I think it ties into the survivorship, is that I really live each day, as fully as I can and as much as I can. And, my husband and we kind of bump heads with this, because we'll be invited to 3 parties in one day. And he's like, no, we'll just go to one. And I'm like, no, I want to go to all 3. Like, let's do it. We'll go here, 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 A, B, and C. Like, we can do it. And our family makes fun of us all the time, because they're like, oh, what party were you at before this? Like, it's just, I just want to be in the moment with family. And I feel like that ties into the survivorship, is just the camaraderie that you have with your family, and just living in the moment, and just doing whatever you want to do. I was on a TikTok live, and there was a girl that came in to my TikTok, to the live, and she said, my dad was just diagnosed with cancer, and she said, is there hope? And I stopped for a moment, and I'm like, there's always hope. You will always have hope. You will always have faith, and you will always hold on to that. And I know there's going to be hard days, but there's going to be good days. And there's going to be a day where you close that chapter of cancer. And it's going to be the best day when you ring that bell. But for me, and this is what I'm going to try to talk about more, is that being brave comes in waves, but let fear disappear. That's what I'm going to try and spread, because I know that it's scary. Hearing the word cancer is so scary, but there's so much more to life after. But you just have to hold on to that hope and faith and have a positive mentality. I know it's hard. I know it is. But you have to surround yourself with so many supportive people who, when you don't feel like being strong, that they're going to be there for you to pick you up, because you don't have to be strong every time. And so, there's just light at the end of the tunnel after cancer. You just have to stay positive and, you know, keep your faith, for sure.